All right, so once they've cooled, you can just, this is so easy. Hi, and welcome back to Alt-Baking Bootcamp. I'm your host, nutritionist Mia Rigden, and today we are going to be making classic dairy-free shortbread cookies. But these aren't any ordinary shortbread cookies. We're taking inspiration from one of our favorite shows, Ted Lasso. Okay, so this recipe only has 5 simple ingredients. We're gonna be using a gluten-free all-purpose flour in place of a regular gluten-containing all-purpose flour. We're using a refined coconut oil, which is replacing the dairy or butter, which is very characteristic of a shortbread cookie. Our sugar is going to be using honey instead of refined sugar because all of our recipes here at Alt-Baking Bootcamp are refined sugar-free. We've got some salt and some vanilla extract. That's it. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and line a 9x13 baking pan with parchment paper. As you see we've done here, I've just lined the inside and then I have coated the sides here with extra coconut oil. So I like to line the baking sheet like this because when your shortbread cookies are baked and cooled, you can literally just lift the sides of the parchment paper up and the cookies will just pop right out. It's super easy and no mess. All right, let's get baking. So here we got 2 cups of our gluten-free flour. I'm gonna get a good dash of salt in there. I'm gonna use the paddle attachment to just get this mixed together. Okay, next we're gonna mix in 1 cup of refined coconut oil. I like to kind of just break this up a little bit. You want to make sure it's not too hard, otherwise it's going to be too difficult to measure and scoop. Get that in there. All right, so we're going to start blending this refined coconut oil. When you're baking with coconut oil, using refined coconut oil will ensure that there isn't a coconutty taste. And using the coconut oil here is going to give us that same flakiness that's characteristic, and that's what we really love about shortbread cookies, but without the dairy that would normally come from butter. All right, so the dough is starting to get nice and crumbly. So next I'm gonna add in the honey, followed by the vanilla extract while the paddle is going and it's mixing, so that we can incorporate all the ingredients together and put them in the baking sheet. Every grain of flour should be coated evenly with the coconut oil, and that's what's going to give these shortbread cookies that flaky texture that we're looking for. You might still see a couple of chunks of coconut oil in there. That's because coconut oil is just harder than butter. So, try to soften your coconut oil before you use it, but if there are a couple of white specks in there, they'll melt in the oven, so don't worry about that. So as you can see, our dough has come together really nicely. I'm just gonna press everything into our baking sheet. We're gonna make some little fork pokes and throw it in the oven. I think that the honey in this recipe gives the cookies just like a little extra oomph and flavor. I really like it. I think it just pairs really nicely with the flaky texture of the cookie. All right, so as you can see, I've just pressed the dough evenly into the pan all the way up to the edge in a thin layer. The dough looks pretty smooth throughout. So now we're gonna poke some holes into the dough to help create that flakiness and introduce some air into the cookies before we put them in the oven. All right, so our oven is set at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and we are gonna bake this for 25 to 35 minutes. You're gonna wanna check your oven around 25 minutes just to check the level of brownness. All right, let's go. All right, so I just pulled these out of the oven. You can smell the honey. It smells so good, and they're looking perfect golden brown on the center of the cookie and throughout the edges. So these are gonna be great. All right, so once they've cooled, you literally just lift them out of the pan, and now we can cut them into nice rectangles. I like to do them Ted Lasso style in 1 by 3 inch rectangles. I think that that's really fun and also fun to eat. All right, so just so we can make nice, perfect squares, I'm gonna cut a little bit of this edge off first. That's cutting really nicely. And then cut about 1-inch rectangles here. You know, you might have some flakiness, but for the most part, you know, they'll come out really nicely, especially if you cut them right as they've cooled. Looking good. All right, so now we have our beautiful shortbread cookies. Don't worry about a few crumbles. That's just part of the baking process, and that means you get to try them before you package them in these beautiful boxes to give to your friends. So we're just gonna place some cookies in. We could not forget about our iconic pink Ted Lasso boxes. So if you are trying to win somebody over, this is the perfect sweet treat to bring them. All right, should we try one? So excited about these. So good. It's amazing how even a dairy-free version can be so flaky. The honey brings like a creaminess to it and adds so much flavor and texture. I absolutely love these cookies and I cannot wait for you to try them. Thank you so much for joining me for today's episode of Alt-Baking Bootcamp. I cannot wait to see how your Ted Lasso biscuits turn out. So please be sure to check out the recipe, which is listed in the description below. Comment if you have any questions or if you want to tell us how much you love your shortbread cookies, and let us know what you'd like to see us bake here next on Alt-Baking Bootcamp. And don't forget to subscribe to Well+Good's YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode of Alt-Baking Bootcamp.